Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here. I've done a couple videos based on stuff I got from Loot Anime before, and I've always told the joke that I don't know why I get a Loot Anime. It just shows up on my doorstep, and I go from being kind of a happy Southern Baptist kid to suddenly being a nihilist. Why does this exist? Why am I alive? Why? Why do I have Loot Anime? But then I got this one, and wow, I'm digging the one I got this month. I finally got some things that I know I want to keep forever. Boku no Hero Academia, yeah, perfect timing. So glad this came after I read it. So I'll keep that forever. I'm excited about this. And it prompted a thesis that I've thought about, I've almost talked about, but I always got distracted. So here's the thesis. It's pretty basic. I think that the American superhero market has a lot to learn from the Japanese comic market, manga. And I think the manga market has a lot it can learn from the Western market. And I'm sorry, I've been seeing bleed over for years of Western artists adopting manga elements into their style and manga artists clearly taking inspiration from, the long history of American comics. That was Osamu Tezuka, right? He took that kind of inspiration from the West. But by and large, you can still notice real big differences in how they operate. Manga studios, they have a studio full of assistants all making the comic together. I think that would benefit Marvel, for example, to help them. They get these low-paid artists at Marvel to crank out these books in a month and do everything, and they look like garbage because one person is trying to crank everything out in a month. In the manga industry, you would see like multiple assistants working under a director who, I don't know if that's the model for this one because unfortunately sometimes mangas don't name who these assistants are, but Shiori Teshirogi, she's a cat lady, guys. Oh no, Shiori, but oh, she's dope. I love this so much, and she's instantly gotten onto my radar with this book. So she's done work for Saint Seiya, The Lost Canvas, The Myth of Hades. Apparently had a anime adaptation. Yeah, I don't know what this means. She's studying voice, like she's learning to sing, or she wants to be a voice actress. But oh, she's a boss artist, and sometimes being single and having a cat baby, well, it frees up some time for you to make some boss art. So I am so excited about this. The problem is, I don't know if this is going to be a Loot Anime exclusive. I'm sure they're going to bring it over eventually, so I could recommend it, but I don't know if you're going to be able to get it that easily or not. Maybe if you can get it used or something, but I would recommend it. And the art and the bonus features in this are incredible, and they connect with everything I like to talk about in art and the process of making art. So what I think I'll do is I'll just do a brief storybook time with Uncle Marmaduke fan of just the first little mini chapter to whet your appetite, and then I'll talk more about the art of it and some of the other things I'm thinking about. So first off, this cover, it's like they messed up. The Rui, the main character, he has much darker hair in the manga, and he looks a little bit simpier here than he does in the comic, but not bad. What I like about this is, unlike the Marvel manga verse, where I take one look at that and I think, faux manga, stay away, do not touch. This instantly I knew it had a more authentic feel to it, and then the interior art is even better. So I'd say this is an okay cover. The interior art is boss. I love this idea of Batman's ears kind of being side armor, where there's like metal coming down the sides that would act as shield. They're decent designs. That isn't my favorite aspect of the comic. He's got kind of these weird metal things on that have a bat motif to them, kind of like iron armor. Okay, I look at it in the comic and it looks boss. I guess my only little nitpick is they're very light and he's very dark, so there's a bit of a separation. But I think this is a really cool alternate spin on these characters, and I think something that DC needs to do is have more Elseworlds books, have more mini universes where they can play around with these characters and not have the big gunky confusing universe that's too hard to keep up with what's canon and what's happening. That's what's been happening to me reading Deathstroke. It sounds like it's good, but I've got no clue who's who or what's going on or what the histories are. I have to go read a bunch of boring Wikipedia articles to understand what's going on in the comic. I kind of want to just jump in the comic and have a good time. And I jumped into this and had a good time. A Japanese kid could jump into this and have a good time. DC needs to do more of this kind of thing. Not necessarily just manga with their characters, but this kind of allowing other artists to do a spin on it. To reach a new country. The Duck Comics? They're bringing them in from the Netherlands. They're bringing them in from Italy. They're bringing them in from the Czech Republic. Do something with your characters. Build them up outside of just America. Okay, Bella, let's actually dive in. All right. So it follows Ryu, and it just has this interesting little kind of abstract, very manga-esque introduction. Oh, he looks so boss. But there's this very manga-esque introduction with very abstract imagery of bats and kind of the idea of power surfacing in the world. Like the superheroes draw their force from these currents of power that are primal to nature itself. And we get a little glimpse of Diana, we get a little glimpse of Superman, but then we focus on our main character meeting Batman. This is an okay little cityscape. I can't detect if it's using 3D models. It's simple, right? There's not that many ripples in the water. It's almost like too bright white, but there's just a few little details to suggest the total effect. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was entirely hand-drawn, maybe with the aid of references, but that doesn't look like a 3D model from Google SketchUp to my eye. The main character, Rui, is slightly more or less masculine than Carl Manvers, which is still pretty masculine, but oh boy, that's just one of the things in the medium, I guess. And opens up with him having an interesting conversation with his taxi driver, and the taxi driver sets up the idea that Gotham is as dangerous a town as there is. He had family in there once, and now his family is all gone. You'd best get out. One of the aspects, so what is manga? How is manga different than American comics? One thing I noticed is lots of abstract imagery illustrating an idea. So he tells them about how Gotham is dangerous, and then look, a giant skull floating in the head and some weirdos sticking out their tongue walking down the street. That is so shonen jumpy type of stuff, but it works. It's setting up the idea of the dangers of Gotham quickly in your mind. If this is the first Batman comic you've ever read, good pacing. Paying attention to the potential audience. As Rui enters, he finds some cops, and he figures, oh, well, I'm Japanese. These police officers will help me out, right? And then these dirty cops mark him and decide they're going to rob him blind and leave him for dead. Then the cop's been drinking, tells him, you got to pay a toll, kind of cutesy. And then his situation grows more dangerous as a second dirty cop arrives. They reveal that he's got some incredible sword, which is precious to him, and he asks them not to touch it. And then, guess what, guys? He's a ninja. All right, now it's time to make a good point. So, the artist, great. I gotta learn her name because she's going on to my list of people to pay attention to. Okay, Shiori Teshirogi. Shiori Teshirogi has been given the task of adapting Western characters into a comic that would feel right in a Japanese market, that Japanese boys would like to read. So she's trying to find elements of both what makes the Western characters work, the Western superhero aesthetics, but she also is trying to make it still feel like authentic manga. That's even a good little bit of advertising on the back. There were some weird typo things, but I'm not going to get OCD about that. Stay focused. So she's focusing on making authentic manga that, so she has a Japanese main character. A long time ago, I did 2 videos on a manga called How Not to Be a Weeaboo. And I was talking about the manga, but part of my point was a lot of kids are now reading manga. It's become a thing, maybe more popular than Western comics, I'm not sure. But then they will people imitate what they look at, garbage in, garbage out, good stuff in, good stuff out. So if all you read is manga, you start drawing in manga styles and copying those ideas. And there's sort of this classic problem for a lot of art students. They'll go to art school and they'll draw like Dragon Ball Z, or they'll draw like Sailor Moon, and their Renaissance art professor will tell them you can't draw like that, and maybe they'll fight with their art teachers about that. That was me a little bit, but not too much, because I didn't just read manga. I read Western comics, and I loved the Renaissance artists even as a kid. So I had a variety of influences. So let's say that you're a kid watching this and you draw in that manga style and you don't know why your art teacher is telling you can't draw in that style if it's so beautiful. Here's my thought on that. It's okay to draw in a manga style. It is not okay only to draw in a manga style, because the best manga artists don't only draw pretty anime faces. They draw everything. And they draw with all kinds of media. And that variety is what gives the final work life, even if this is sort of a 2000s anime style. Oh, that's the other thing I was thinking about. There is something called the Bat manga. I think that's just their westernized name for it. But it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I read it about 2 years ago, so I've forgotten some of the plot points. But that style was mostly kind of a very old school manga style. It felt a lot like a Bob Kane, Bill Finger comic. So go pick up the Bat manga if you like Batman. I think you will dig it. This is the first time I've ever seen the DC characters drawn in a modern manga style, kind of since the late 2000s. And what you'll see in a kind of a 2000s manga style is it's not quite as angular as 90s manga. There's all this, they're using digital tools smartly, I think, to add a lot of drama and make the grayscale feel painterly. And there's so much emphasis on movement in the brief action scenes. So this is a good moment to talk about this. So Ryu, pretty much you could describe this fight scene in a sentence. He drops some bombs, he runs up to the cop, and he kicks him. But then when you look at it, it's so much more than that. So even though the fight scene is really simple, like this would actually kind of be a dull fight scene if it was in a movie or if it was plotted differently, everything is sold with the action line and just how crazy this is. Worm's eye view, bird's eye view. All the motion pushing forward in every little line on that cement. So the presentation is as important as what the actors are doing. What do I want to connect this with? Oh, so one of the strengths I see in a lot of manga artists is one of the weaknesses, I think, is they like to make everything look flashy and cool, which is awesome because everything looks flashy and cool. But it also means that sometimes it's so crazy and over the top, it can be hard to tell what's going on. This, I think, is a strong example where I understood perfectly, how this fight scene is progressing. It's a straightforward fight scene. Look at that. That just looks so cool. All he's doing is he jumps. If this was a script, it'd be he jumps in the air, he kicks the cop. Look at that. All this stuff, all this motion and wind or whatever coming off him to show the rotation of his kick as he's flying through the air. The strong vertical lines as he's coming down. This is so boss. This so smacks Marvel into next Tuesday. Good grief. Not all of Marvel. A good third of the Marvel books I've read don't even hold a candle to this. There are still Marvel artists who are as good as this or better than this, but I love good comics. All right. He's knocked out from behind, and we'll find out why later. And then look at this intro. Yes, that is a 2-page spread. And then Batman starts just cleaning clocks. There's all this great black and white art. I'll save talking about that for when we get to the sketches at the end. He holds the cop over. This is the panel I really wanted to talk about. So they build up this with the fight scene, and then the crooked cop yells Batman. And this is treated with emphasis. It's filling a good, maybe like a good, sixth of the page. And suddenly it's like something changed in the line work. There's more gray and white, and all the lines and the speckles of painterly lines are kind of building the energy right here. The thought I had while reading this is something noteworthy, right? Batman appearing in a 2016 manga. That's interesting. And this moment is being treated with a lot of passion and energy because of that. It's a good climax to the fight scene. So Batman dispatches of them. And then he has a little conversation with Ryu about how, well, it looks like you could have handled yourself. Why didn't you? Ryu's kind of a pacifist, and Batman pretty much tells him that Gotham's going to chew you up and spit you out. I like this little bit where Batman says, I don't kill, I just instill fear. Brief language, economy of language, 2 sentences that tells a new Batman fan what they need to know about Batman. I don't kill, I just instill fear. That's great. Yes, that's Batman. In 2 sentences, we got the character. Yes. Mwah, que bella. Oh, good grief. This is great. And then off he goes, and there's this little neat moment where Ryu says that Batman kind of reminds him of his dad. So good. We're already getting a feel for Ryu. He's a ninja kid. He's a pacifist. He looks up to Batman, but he kind of resents how Batman is kind of putting him down like Dad would. So that's all I'm going to show of the story, because I want to get to the sketches at the end. Okay, that's the end of the story. All right. Wonder Woman, she looks good, very muscular, very, very pretty, kind of very over the top and tall and Amazonian. Got the short shorts back. I thought something was kind of spaghetti-like about this arm. I don't know. And the other thing I'm thinking about with Shiori's style is I definitely see a influence of Dragon Ball Z in the musculature, where they're kind of they're strong muscles, but they're also a little boxy. And I love Akira Toriyama. I hated Dragon Ball Z as a little kid. I thought it was stupid, and then I learned to appreciate it as an adult due to its cultural influence. But I always hated the musculature on Dragon Ball Z. I thought it looked ridiculous. But then when I went to the comic and saw how Akira Toriyama drew, it's much more beautiful in comic form than it was in the anime form, in my humble opinion. But I still don't like this real boxiness, which I see in the muscles. But let's get this name, for Shiori, it's much more natural. This is a great artist. That Batman is just so boss. Look at that. Kind of that sort of modern combat armor in styled look. I threw shade on this earlier because that's sort of light and that's black. But look, bat motifs in it and cool little details. Yeah. I was going to say Bruce Wayne's a little wimpy chinned, but I like that there's some angle to his cheekbones. So he doesn't look like a 16-year-old with a few lines slapped on his face. He looks like he's in his late 20s. And what's helping that is this angular jawline, chiseled, right? And his chin's jutting forward. On this one, his cheekbones are very pronounced. The cheekbones help you sort of tell the difference between an older man and a young man. On a young man, that should be barely discernible. As they get older and older, gradually the cheekbones become more pronounced, at least in comic art. So yeah, okay, I can accept that as Bruce Wayne. I thought Clark Kent looks like a 15-year-old boy, you know. I don't know. Kind of that sort of New 52 collar, no red underwear on the outside. Here's where we see really kind of the boxy Dragon Ball Z muscles, I think, where they feel like a box attached to the form, but still boss. So much energy, the flow of the cloak. This is a great artist. Aquaman, little beard, little prettiness, you know, pretty. What is it that Diversity in Comics? Oh yeah, Diversity in Comics had his daughter on as a guest star, and she said that Super Sons, they have super shiny eyes, lots of super shiny eyes in this style. I hope this isn't Hal Jordan. This would be a great Kyle Rayner. Cyborg looks cool. Gordon looks like he's about 45. I don't know how old he's supposed to be in this book, but maybe there could have been a little bit more emphasis on, you know, the angle and the angle of his jaw and his cheekbones and the chin. The same thing. I think that How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, the best book ever made, can tell you what to emphasize to indicate the difference between a 20-year-old girl and a 40-year-old girl and woman and a 60-year-old woman. There could have been a little bit of more of that emphasis on Jim Gordon, but he still reads as a middle-aged man, not a 15-year-old boy with gray hair and a few wrinkles. Oh, Rui, you are traps or something. I'm not going to say on this channel because I don't want to get demonetized, but traps are something. Joker. clearly Heath Ledger inspired. I don't like this digital paint on top of Joker. And when we look at the pencil sketches, I think the pencil sketches look much better because some of the digital soft stuff is covering up his face and his expression. So this is pretty much a direct borrowing of the Heath Ledger look. And the thing is, Heath Ledger gave such an interesting performance that he kind of defined that take on the Joker. Every Heath Ledger, Heath, blah, 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 every one of those after Heath Ledger isn't going to hold a candle to his performance. But anyway, a cute, maybe Goth Lolita inspired Harley Quinn. Yeah, I'm down for it. This drawing, man, let's just look at this. So they tell you that these pages show Shiori Teshirogi's amazing process from loose pencils to finished inks. Yes, but I think there's some other noteworthy things about this. So yeah, we see the loose pencils. I'm guessing this is probably digital since that's become so common, but if I were comparing this to traditional materials, this is like charcoal pencil, and this is like vine charcoal in washes, which is kind of an unusual combination. So maybe this in the digital format that works a little better because you're working in layers. But oh, so beautiful. Two kinds of beautiful in one. Loose sketchy lines over here, soft washes of gray and tone, and just a few indications of detail here. Great drawing. And then a whole bunch of pencil sketches showing the process. You can see how things were changed and reworked. You can see some subtle changes like the head being fixed, the hand being moved. I feel a little better about my lame attempt at a comic book cover critique where I was fumbling around trying to figure out the hands, because here the hand's just behind him, and then here the hand was moved up. So it's okay to move things like that around and rework it from draft to draft. I like that the sound effects are sketched out to help they're added digitally, but sketching it out here helps you use them as a part of the composition, not just something that's slapped on top of finished art. I also thought it was noteworthy that Shiori is not using spot blacks. A spot black is a big shape, and you just put a little X in it, and that's supposed to tell the inker, fill this all in solid black. Shiori is just using pencil and building it up. And then so what you see is there's quite a distinction between the inks and the pencils, where they're filling some stuff in solid black that was just loosely sketched out here. What I like about that is the pencil art has a much more finished look all by itself, where you could read this pencil art as a comic and it wouldn't feel as awkward as some pencil art in Western comics, where the pencil art is done as a step to producing the finished work with the inker. This is a penciler using Renaissance style drawing, where all the drawing is supposed to work all by itself to communicate everything you need to know. You don't need the inker to come in to understand what's going on here, but the inking process does add a lot of drama and liveliness with the rich blacks. So I am so happy by this. I will keep this forever. This is fantastic. More bonuses giving us pencil arts in comparison to the inks. More books with just the pencil arts. Artists need to be able to see examples of this, to see how this is done. It's historical almost. You're giving us valid information about the artistic process that lots of people should know. I love this just flowing line as he's running around them in a great spiral. And here it's left light, and here it became a solid black shape spiraling around. Fantastic. Oh, the whole arm? Looks like the whole arm changed. No, it's still pretty consistent. I just missaw that. Here's that great page I saw earlier, and we get to see all the dynamism in the pencil sketch and how the ink is adding. If you don't know who Tom Preston is, he was kind of an infamous webcomic artist who achieved great, wide popularity on DeviantArt, and then he kind of came crashing down over time. It was kind of a sad story. One of the controversies about him was he would complain about inks, and he'd say, well, I like my pencils, but I hate my inks. My pencils are so much more expressive, but the inks feel dead and lifeless. And at the time, I kind of understood what he was getting at. Pencils show you the development of the artist, trying to build up the idea over time and change things. So that's why I like pencil art so much. I like doing pencil art. I like looking at pencil art. But this is an example of both a good penciler and a good inker, where the ink is adding some liveliness that the pencil can't quite get. That speckle effect, that kind of crackling energy from the flecks of paint and the flecks of white. Mwah! Oh, I love it. Uh, I'm getting so excited. Oh, I thought this was interesting. Big hot dog sausage fingers here. Slender tipped fingers coming to a taper at the end here. So see, great artists can struggle with hands, and then they just keep reworking it, they just keep building it, and they get it better towards the end. This is a much better hand than this hot dog Barney the Dinosaur glove. Wow. I'm just going to flip through this now and just let you look at some of this until I get sparked. Okay, Batman fighting them. His eyes were in shadow here, and then they made it white here. And then you can see again, almost all white except for his face, and then they figured out the blacks in post, which is, I've already made that point. It's distinct from the Western style. Here we go. This is where I thought Joker looks a million times better in pencils than in the final digital look. Digital tools can help your art, but I think this is maybe an instance where the digital tool is fighting the art a little bit. So there's nothing wrong with digital tools. They can speed up your process. They can make the finished work look better. But I feel like there are ways in which if you over rely on them, you're missing learning something that the traditional tools teach you. So I'm not saying traditional tools are better than digital tools. I'm saying use digital tools and use traditional tools, because this is a traditional pencil drawing where the Joker's expression is coming across great. This is a digital paint on top of it where we've lost that zany expression. This is scary. This is just, okay, Heath Ledger. I would have liked even this without any makeup on as a take on the Joker. What was I going to compare that to? Oh, Osamu Tezuka. I've got lots of Osamu Tezuka books. He's great. Read him. King of comics. He would draw pretty much all his stuff traditionally, which means it's a lot more simple looking compared to contemporary manga, but it meant he was a lot more deliberate. If you had to physically draw every single action line, you made sure your action lines were necessary. If you can digitally slap on a lot of textures, you can be a little bit more slapdash with it. So once again, it's not wrong to use those digital techniques to add some dynamism to the art, but it can make you miss something that you wouldn't miss if you hand drew it all out. If you hand drew it all out, you would see, okay, I don't need all these extra lines. I need just some strong lines here. And then you transfer that to digital, and then you finish it up. I am 100% a traditional guy. You start traditional, transfer to digital to finish it up, but you need that experience to translate to the digital world. Anyway, that's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. And then they do a preview of Chapter 3, which I'm not going to show. They do a nice interview. It just talks a little bit about her perspective on working with these DC characters. She likes the Joker. Did she have difficulty? She had difficulty because she says she had a surface level knowledge of them. So that's interesting. I don't know quite what she meant by that. She praises the Western market exuberantly. And even though her comments are somewhat general, you know, like manga art is a bit more focused on character, Western comics are a bit more focused on action scenes, kind of true, maybe in the most general sense. I was just so impressed to see her talk about Western comics, because when I read manga, it's weird. I'm an English speaker, so when I see these vertical panel layouts, it's interesting. It's unusual. I think that's a big appeal of manga. But when she looks at Western art, she finds that interesting. Yes, you don't have to just copy something from another country because it's weird and cool. You can draw from your own experience. You don't have to set your comic in Japan if you don't live in Japan. You can set your comic where you live and draw from your experiences and just bring some of what you love from manga into your art, but draw from your life. Draw from where you live. If you live in some little podunk town, you could make a superhero story in a little podunk town compelling if you are a great artist and a great storyteller. I don't know, have them crash into the little old mom and pop shop while they're having their superhero fight, and then go draw a little old mom and pop shop in your town for inspiration, and it'll feel real. It'll feel authentic. This artist is drawing from her culture, her ideas, her her world of manga art and her history. But you don't have to draw from Japanese art just because you like manga. You can, but if you want to be like a good manga artist, draw from life and draw all kinds of stuff. Do not just draw manga faces. Excellent. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. Oh, was there one last thing I want? Oh, the poster. Gosh, there's so much cool stuff here. All right. So she talked about in the poster how in manga art, Shonen Jump boys comics, they have a lot of, boys just sort of, they're facing straight front, looking at the camera, and she was excited to do something at a bit more of a dynamic angle, 3/4 view. Yeah, and she'll talk about how she really likes Cyborg and the transformation, so she tried to emphasize that. Yep, I see it. This is a great little poster, and I'm gonna keep this forever. I think I already summarized nicely what she talked about in the interview. This is a great interview. If they bring this over, please include all this extra bonus stuff, because this is fantastic. This little bonus page stuff all by itself justified the purchase of the Loot Anime subscription. # not a sponsor. Hey, Loot Anime guys, if you want me to be a sponsor, go ahead and email me, I guess, and I'll shill your stuff, because I dug this. Please bring this over. Bring the whole book over. This was only a couple little chapters, so they're probably waiting for more to get published before they bring it over. But yes, I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. I hope you guys can find this somewhere if you're interested. Love ya. Check out, if you can't find this, go check out the Bat manga. Especially if you're a Batman fan, I think you'd dig it. Catch you later.